Alright, now just for the purpose of me not having to worry about infringing on anybody's copyrights, um, I am not using anything online. But if you want to, you could probably do a Google search and find a camel that is all black, like a clip art or something like that. What I did was I just sketched out I found a couple of photographs of camels with a guy on top, and I just kind of sketched out the kind of the shape of it, and then I just outlined it in black, and then scanned it into my computer. And so you can do that. If you don't do that, you can skip this part of the tutorial. But if you want to know what I'm fixing to do, it might be helpful in the future for you. All right, I'm going to my pictures. Here is my camel sketch I scanned in. I'm going to edit this in GIMP. All right, it's scanned in as a pretty big size, so it's like 5,000 by almost 7,000, so it's pretty big. So any kind of updating is a little bit slow. First thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna rotate this thing. So I'm gonna select my layer. I'm gonna go over here to my rotate over to far left. So I'm gonna click on the image, and in this box I'm gonna type in I need to go -90. There we go. Click on rotate to complete it. I should have made this smaller before I started this tutorial so it didn't take this long to update, but that's alright. Alright, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and crop this. So let's use our crop tool and just make this a lot smaller. And again, this is pretty easy to do. Just do a sketch and then go back with a black pen and just trace over the outline of what you want. And then just take an eraser and erase all your pencil. So when you do it in pencil, just kind of do it lightly so you can erase it. Alright, hit enter. And there we go. So actually that's probably okay. Let's zoom in a little bit. Zoom in 50%. It's gonna be alright. So you can see here that it's not really black. And if I go use my paint tool and try to fill this in with paint, you can see the edges. That's not what we want. So I'm gonna undo. And let's go up to colors, down to levels. And I'm just gonna try to make this black. Alright, so there we go, nice and black. So now if we try to fill this in with a black bucket, it should work a lot better. Alright, we can still see a little bit in there, but that's okay. If we zoom out, let's see. Alright, so yeah, not bad at all. We can use this. If we needed to, we can go in there with our black paintbrush and just kind of touch that up if we needed to. Let's see if I can click in there. Yeah, there we go. Alright, looks like I got one little spot. Alright, there we go. I got it. Okay, so there is our camel. Next thing we need to do is make all this white transparent. So I'm going to go to color, color to alpha. And right here, it's selected white. So I want everything that is white is going to be transparent. So we can look at our preview and you can see that around there it's not white. Alright, click OK. All the white areas will become transparent, just like so. I'm going to rescale this image. So under image, scale image, and let's knock this down even further to, let's say 800. So 800 by 701. So scale. Alright, let's zoom in a little bit more, 50%. Alright, so this is done. Image, flatten image. No, no, no. That gets rid of our, you don't want to flatten because it gets rid of the transparency. So I'm just going to go to File, Save As, and we're going to save it as a PNG file. So .png, and we'll just call it camel sketch. Save. Alright, so we can close out GIMP now. Now all we did was we created a transparent image that we can use instead of having to model a camel and a person on top. So it's just kind of an easy way to do it. Another way you could do it is you could create a image plane and just find a photo of a camel and or just whatever you want, and then you can use your create mesh tool or create polygon tool, and then you can just start clicking and following the outline of it, and then once you're done, then just make that black. Or you can just use a transparent image like we're about to do here. Alright, so our image, if I just go back to our pictures, the size is 800 by 701. So I'm going to go to create polygon primitives plane. I usually don't create it from up here. Options box, and I'm just going to make this, let's say 800 by 701. Actually, I don't want to do that because that's going to be really huge. So let's just do 8 and then 7.01. Alright, divisions, I'll just put 2 each, just so I have edges going through the center of the face instead of just complete open face. Alright, create. Alright, over in channel box, I'm going to rotate this 90 degrees in X just so it faces our camera. So raise this up. Let's get this onto the top of that hill. Alright, so it's on the top of our hill. I'm going to go ahead and do a planar mapping on it just so our image won't be stretched. So it looks like the Z-axis is going through our plane. So let's go to create UVs, planar mapping, options box, change it to Z-axis and project. Alright, so now let's add a texture to this. Right click, add new material. I'm just going to do a Lambert. Let's call this shader underscore camel. Alright, where it says color, just going to click on the button far right. We're going to choose a file this time because we're going to use a file for our image. Navigate to my picture folder, and there's our camel. Open. Alright, now we can't really see it in our view, so I'm just going to press the number 6, and there we go. And now I actually realized I just messed up. We need to plug this into our transparency, not into the color. So what I'm going to do is well, we can leave it there just so that you can see where the image is going to be and we can adjust its feet. If we do it just in the transparency section and we just leave the color without a file and just leave it all black, then it'd be hard to adjust to get his feet and everything situated just right. Alright, let me go and go to my render angle. So it's kind of far away. We can make him bigger or smaller. And it kind of depends on how the ripples are in your sand. So if your sand dune looks like it's really huge, then you're going to want your character to kind of small. And if you got the ripples to where your hill looks really small, then you'll want your guy really big to match. Alright, so let's I'm just going to start off with something about like this. Alright, and their feet kind of sink into the sand a little bit, so I'm going to lower him down just a little bit. Maybe rotate. So something about like that. Alright, so if we do a render of this right now without putting anything in transparency, let's see what it looks like. I don't really usually do it this way, but I'm kind of curious of, okay, it actually even still works. Alright, but the light, we want to cast some shadows, and we want these shadows to pass through this guy. So let's go ahead and turn shadows on our light. I'm going to select the light over in the attribute editor. I'm going to expand the shadow section. Let's use ray tracing shadows. The shadow light angle 0 is going to be a really hard edge shadow, and then the higher that number, the softer the shadow will be. I'm going to bump it up to 2, so it's still going to be a decently hard shadow, but not too hard. Shadow rays, if you're using it, unless you're using 0, if you use an angle, then the shadow can come out kind of splotchy. So the more rays you have, the higher the number of shadow rays, then the less blotcher it's going to be. So I'm just going to go ahead and start off with, say, 16, and then I'll end up doubling it to 32, and then 64, or 128, just kind of whatever starts working out. So let's do a test render. Okay, it's not casting any shadows, it looks like. Alright, let's, I would still have expected a shadow being cast by this. Let's go ahead and put this guy into our transparency. So where it says transparency, I'm going to click on the button. Oh, okay, it automatically put it there. Alright, that's what we want. Alright, that's interesting. I didn't know it did that. So apparently if you use a image that has transparency in it, then it's automatically going to add it to the your transparency channel as well. Because all we did was we added it to the color. We never added it to the transparency. Alright, so why is this not casting any shadows through this guy on the ground? Alright, let's look at our transparency real quick. Color balance. Let's make sure the alpha offset's all the way down. Alright, so everything looks good. Let's go to high quality rendering. Okay, it doesn't show shadows there, so it only shows it during the rendering stage. Let's play with our light angle then. So T, go back to my rendering angle. Oh, okay. I don't know why I didn't think of this. Alright, we are using ray trace shadows. Anytime you use ray trace, you need to use mental ray renderer. So let's switch to mental ray. Alright, quality. I'm going to go ahead and bump this up to preview. And now we should see some shadows. Alright, so now we're getting some shadows. Much better. Alright, I'm going to kind of move this guy over a little bit. And I'm going to make my shadow a little bit more. I'm just going to keep adjusting my light until I get the shadow kind of the way I want it. Alright, something kind of about like that, I think. Maybe even more this way. Alright, once you get something you like, then we're pretty much about done inside of Maya. The only left to do is to go into GIMP, or if you're using Photoshop, you go inside Photoshop or some other program and create our sky to make it a little bit better. And what I'm doing here is I'm kind of looking at the size of the ripples in the sand and the size of our guy here. So we could actually maybe even afford to make him a little bigger. Alright, there we go. That looks pretty good. I like that. Alright, let's do a big render of this. So let's go back to our common pass. Let's make this 10 by 24, or well, 1024 by 768. Quality, I'm going to go ahead and take this up to production. And let's do a render. Alright, I'm going to save this out. So File, Save Image. I'm going to save it as a PNG file, or you can do a TIFF, anything that holds alpha. Alright, so I'm going to call this, put it on our, make sure it's on our desktop. This is going to be camel render 1, just whatever you want to name it. Save. Alright, let's close this out. Here's our render. I'm going to open this up with GIMP, so let's go back into GIMP. File, open. Let's go to our desktop. There's our camel. Let's open it up. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and add a new layer. So over here in the right, I'm going to click on this little button. That's for a new layer. Alright, that doesn't matter. We can use transparency, whatever. I'll just go ahead and put this on, let's say, white. Click OK. I'm going to move this layer below our background. So I'm just going to drag it. Alright, sometimes it doesn't let me drag it, sometimes it does. So it doesn't, I'm just going to click on this green arrow right here below it, and it moves that layer down. Alright, let's kind of make our sky color. So what I'm going to do is, let's see, let's use a gradient. And let's see, this is going to, down here in our options, gradient, we're using a foreground to background. So I'm going to click on this black, and let's change this to a kind of a bluish color, kind of like a sky. Maybe something kind of like that. And then the bottom color I'll just leave kind of a, maybe a grayish, kind of a really light grayish. Maybe a touch of blue in it. Alright. Now I can just kind of click and drag. And there's our sky. Alright, I'm going to create another layer. Transparency. Alright, I'm going to make sure this layer is on top of the sky layer but behind the background layer. And we're just going to kind of create the sun. The way I'm going to do that is, again, I'm going to leave on the gradient. And down here where the shape is, I'm going to change it from linear to radial. Let's change our colors. Let's go with, let's see, our sun's kind of a, maybe something kind of like that, but really kind of a light color. And then this one's going to be, we'll just make it black for now. Just kind of see what this does, make sure we got it right. So I want the sun kind of over here, because if you look at our shadow, so I'm just going to kind of maybe click a spot here and just drag a little ways. Alright, so you can see what that did. So we're kind of making our sun. If we just drag a little ways, it's small. If we drag further, it gets bigger and bigger. Alright, so I think I'm going to go with something about, maybe something about like that. It's really bright shining sun. And then what I'm going to do is on this layer, I'm going to go to color, color to alpha. I'm going to change this button from white to black, because everywhere it's black I want it to be see-through. Click OK. Alright, so you can see now it's really bright over here. So that's going to kind of simulating our sun shining on our character. But I want the sky not so blue, so I'm going to kind of work on that a little bit. Let's see, color, hue and saturation. So maybe kind of darken it up maybe. Maybe take a little bit of saturation out of it. Just kind of playing around with it. Alright, once you get your image the way you like it, once you're done, just go up to Image, Flatten Image, File, Save As. Let's save it as a JPEG. 100% quality. Let's close this out and let's go into our pictures. I think that's where we saved it. Nope, it's on our desktop. So we just do a preview, and there's our image. So it's pretty simple to do. And again, the more time you spend with it, the better it's going to look. But that concludes the tutorial. Thanks for watching.